Yo, what's going on? Mo Bassi back at it again, and in today's video we're going to discuss how to stop being lazy and finally stop procrastinating. Now, before we get into this, I want to go over the general advice that most guys give. You know, they'll be like, set a deadline, set a time for a deadline of when you need to get shit done. Or, you know, start working for 5 minutes and see if that's gonna help you to actually get into the workflow. And I've tried all of this shit. You know, I've tried doing the 5 minutes rule. I've tried setting a deadline for all of my work and everything that I need to get done, and nothing really helped. You know, there wasn't anything real behind it for me to actually get shit done, because I used to deal with a lot of laziness. I used to deal with a lot of procrastination. The only thing that actually did help with finally overcoming the laziness, finally overcoming procrastination, was having a consequence behind not doing it. And not just any consequence. Don't tell your friends, hey, if I don't do this, then, you know, I'll give $10 to charity or whatever, or I'll give $10 to a charity that I hate. That's not necessarily a real consequence. Or don't do a consequence that you're just not gonna follow up on because it's so scary for you. A lot of guys will build consequences for themselves where they'll say, well, if I don't get this done, I'm gonna go out and take my shirt off in public and scream. And then they just never end up doing it, and they also don't do the consequence, so it's this negative feedback loop. You need to have a consequence based on social accountability. So for example, right now we're filming these videos, and I wouldn't be doing these videos if there wasn't social accountability behind it, with my cameraman actually being there. If he didn't actually show up and if he didn't come here today, I wouldn't film these videos. But because he is here, there is this social accountability for me that I have to do this now. Otherwise, I would waste his time. And as humans, we don't want to let anybody else down, because it's a hardwiring in our brain that if we let the other person down, then our chances of reproduction and survival actually go down, because now this person might not like us, and they might not give us resources, they might go against our back, they might actually not help us survive when there's a survival situation in case. And so we always want to socially be held accountable to other people, and we don't want to let them down. It feels like an obligation. So the easiest way for you to actually start overcoming this procrastination is having some sort of social accountability. So for example, let's say you need to sit down and actually work and write your book, right? You want to become an author and write a book. It's going to be really hard for you to write a book when you're sitting inside your place and there's all these distractions around you. You know, you could watch TV, you could watch Netflix, you could go on your phone, etc., etc. And there's also been advice out there that says, you know, put your phone in another room and sit down and, you know, put an alarm for an hour. And that worked for a little bit for me, but not long term. Here's another thing you can do. You can hit up your friend and say, hey, do you want to work today? And, you know, have an accountability partner where you guys work together. And say, okay, let's meet up at this place at this time, and we're gonna sit down for an hour and work. Here's what's gonna happen. Because you guys have actually set social accountability, there's social responsibility in place. Now you have to show up because you promised that person, and you also told them how you're gonna work for an hour. And if you don't do it, they're gonna look at you like, dude, what the fuck? You said you're gonna work for an hour. So because of that social consequence, that social responsibility, now there is that rewiring in your brain, that part of your brain that says, I have to feel obligated to make this person feel not let down. You're gonna actually do the work that you're supposed to do. So that's the first thing, is making sure that there's social accountability and social consequence for you getting shit done. Second thing is, you might be losing vision for why you're actually doing certain things. If you're spending all day, you know, working, doing all this, chasing your dreams and following your dreams and all that stuff, but you don't even know what you're chasing anymore, it's gonna be really hard for you to actually start chasing it every day. So one thing that I do is I constantly surround myself in environments and around things that I want whenever I feel my inspiration levels going down. So let's say you want to one day own a Lamborghini. Easiest way to get inspired so that you stop procrastinating is, instead of working, which you have to will yourself into and, you know, try to do so hard, why don't you shut your laptop, don't work, go to a Lamborghini dealership and check out your most favorite Lamborghini and actually sit inside of it. What do you think this is gonna do within your actual physiological influence? You surround yourself in an environment where it's exactly the thing you want, and because of this, when you get home, that's gonna be fresh on your mind. You're gonna be thinking about the Lamborghini that you sat in and how sweet it would be for you to actually drive it and get in it and feel the engine rev, etc., etc. And now that it's fresh on your mind, you're sitting behind your computer, and there's two options: for you to not do the work, which means you won't get that Lamborghini that is fresh on your mind now, or actually sit down for an hour and do the work, which because of that fresh inspiration, you're gonna end up doing. Put this together with social accountability and it's impossible for you to not get shit done. Okay, this is what I figured out. I dealt with laziness and procrastination for a long period of time. And if I don't have that social accountability and I don't have that inspiration of exactly what I want, it's really fucking hard for me to actually do it. Okay, it's really, really difficult. That's pretty much it. Those were the 2 ways that I figured out really worked for me. All the stuff out there other than this didn't really help, like sit down for 5 minutes and start and, you know, put a timer on and, you know, give to a charity you don't like. That shit didn't really help, man. Like all that stuff was kind of useless, and in most cases it actually made me procrastinate it more. One last thing I will deal with, if both those things don't work, this last thing is 1000% gonna work. This is my last, I guess, like trick or technique that is guaranteed to work anytime you're procrastinating. Usually when you procrastinate, this happens, where as a guy, you're sitting down, you know you're procrastinating, you know you're being lazy, and because of this, you start to feel bad. You start to feel anxious. You start to think, man, I know I should be working. Why is it so hard for me to get something done? And now you start to feel shitty about yourself. You start to go into the self-pity, and it just makes things even worse. One thing that I learned from the book Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle, he talks about whenever you start to notice yourself procrastinating, instead of making yourself feel like shit because you're procrastinating, which you're gonna do anyways, why not feel like shit, right? Procrastinate without feeling like shit. Spend the next 2 hours, spend the entire day procrastinating. Just tell yourself, you know what? Fuck it. If I'm not gonna work, I'm not gonna make myself feel bad. And spend all your time in bed. Say, you know what? I'm just gonna spend all day here today and I'm not gonna do any work. And I'm fine with that. I'm okay with not doing any work. And whenever I've done this, I noticed something inside of me where it's like, oh, this entire time that I was making myself feel like shit or procrastinating and making myself feel like shit was actually what I was doing to continue a pattern of making myself feel bad. It's literally just your ego trying to make yourself feel bad, and it finds it through procrastination. So when you do this and you accept the fact that you're procrastinating and you don't want to change it, you're like, you know what? I'm just going to procrastinate all day. Now there's no reason for your brain to find anything bad or negative about yourself. You know, you stop making yourself feel bad. And then I notice for myself, whenever I'm in bed and I'm like, man, I should get out of bed. I need to stop procrastinating. And I just go with it and I accept it. All of a sudden inside my mind, there comes a thought where like, I'm bored. I feel like working. I feel like getting up and doing something. I feel like sitting on my computer and maybe, you know, actually working, creating some content, doing some videos. And all of a sudden, my brain naturally goes into work. I'm not willing myself or pushing myself against something. I'm not resisting anything. My brain is naturally doing it because your creativity is your natural aspect. We are natural, you know, creative people and we are creators. So when you stop fighting and resisting this procrastination and you accept it, all of a sudden your natural part of you takes in place, which is to actually create, okay? So actually be creative. So those are the 3 things I would recommend. Have social accountability, so there's no way that you can't do it. Inspire yourself with environments and things that you want. And last but not least, accept it, fully accept it and feel it, and realize you don't want to change it. And all of a sudden, there's this natural flow where you're gonna actually want to get creative and create. Those are the 3 things that really helped me. Hopefully you put this into action and it helps you. If it did, make sure to click that subscribe button and we'll talk soon. Take care.